Hi everybody, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to talk about creating a dashboard with checkboxes that affect a dynamic graph. So what you see in front of you is the final product, and we will walk through on how to make this. If you'd like to download the template for free, just follow the link in the description. Or if you'd like to support my channel, please like and subscribe, and you can actually access this template on my Etsy site as well. This dashboard can be used to track any type of collection, cards, video games, comics. And how it works is as you check these checkboxes, the graph and the summary will change depending on which checkboxes are checked. So let's get into how we make this. A few functions we'll be using when creating this dashboard will be COUNTA, COUNTIF, SUM, and SUMIF functions. Let's get started by creating a few generic cards, and we'll call these normal cards. Card 1, card 2, card 3, and you guessed it, card 4. We'll add a little bit more detail, the number of the card, the rarity, price, and have. Just going to copy this, Control C, and then just change the number to 2, 3, and 4. Create some rarities. And we'll make up a few prices here. Change these to currency, or you could change them to accounting. And before we add the checkboxes, we're going to create this as a table. Highlight the whole area, insert, table. And you can see this is selected. You can change what you want to select by hitting this button here. And we could actually create a table here or anywhere we want. But we're going to highlight the contents we created. My table does have headers. And there we go. We can change the name of the table to card list. And now let's create those checkboxes. In order to create the checkboxes, we have to have access to the developer tab up top here. If you do not have access to that, you can right click on your ribbon to customize the ribbon. And this will allow you to add that tab at the top. So you should be able to find it here on the right. If you see here is developer, if you check it, you'll now have access to the developer tab. If you don't see it on the right here, you might have to scroll through on the left. Click on it and add it. Click on Developer, Insert, Checkbox. Now wherever you click, a checkbox will be generated. Now that we have the checkbox, we need to remove the text. You can do that by right-clicking on the checkbox and hit Edit Text. We'll delete all the text and then click off. Now we have our checkbox. Checkboxes are a bit tricky to move. If you were to left click on this checkbox, you will check the box. So what you need to do is right click, which will create the box around the checkbox, and then make sure your cursor is showing the 4 arrows. This will allow you to move the checkbox. At that point, when we check the checkbox, it's not officially assigned to this cell yet. In order to do that, we need to right click on the checkbox, format control, cell link, then click on the cell we want to assign it to. Okay. And now when we check the checkbox, you can see in the background in the cell, true or false. Let's continue to create the last 3 checkboxes that we need, and we can do that by right-clicking on the checkbox we already created copy, Control V to paste, and we will move this over our cell. Do this 2 more times. And now when we click on these checkboxes, you can see they're all synced to the same cell. So what we have to do is right click on each cell, format control, and select the cell we want to tie it to. You can manually type in the cell if you prefer that way. F12, F4 to lock the cells. Now when we click on the checkboxes, they are individually assigned to the cells. Now let's create our summary above. We will start by creating a normal card section. And within that section, we want to have the count of all the cards, our specific count, percent complete, value, and then our value. Our first formula will be a count A formula. What this formula will do is it'll count a cell if there is text, numbers, or any type of information within that cell. So we'll highlight our cards and then hit enter. And now we have a count of 4. So let's count our specific cards that we own. And we can do that by using a COUNTIF formula. So we select our range, which will be if we have them or not, comma, and the criteria that we're looking for is if the statement is true. Now when we check and uncheck these boxes, the value will change on whether or not if it's true or not. Now that we've done that, let's create the section that shows how much of our collection we've actually completed. We can do that by selecting the equal sign, then D5 divided by C5. We then want to change that to a percentage. And now we can see as we check these checkboxes, it will increase or decrease our collection percentage. Next, we want to create the value of the full collection. Equals sum, highlight all the value, enter. Our collection is worth $1.45. So let's find out how much we actually own of that collection in regards to monetary value. We can do that by creating a SUMIF function, which is much like the COUNTIF function. So the first step is to create our range. And then the criteria for our range is true. And then if it's true, we want to present the value for the price of that card. Enter. And you can see as we check the checkboxes, the value of our collection will increase and decrease. Next, we want to hide the text in our have column, and we can do that by selecting the cells and choosing the color that matches the table. Now when we check the checkboxes, it's still changing from true or false, but we don't see that because the text is the same color of that cell. The next thing we want to do is create a separate table that tracks a different variation of our cards. But before we do that, we want to make sure the table that we already created looks pretty close to perfect. You can move these checkboxes more precisely by using the arrow keys. So once those look good, and the centering of our header is also corrected, I'm going to go up here, middle align it, and then I'm going to space out my cells. And then I'm going to remove the filter. Control C to copy. Control V to paste, and now we have a second table with much less work to do. I'm going to change a few things, call this reverse hollow. These cards will now be called reverse. Now let's create our reverse hollow section in the summary. And I want to show you a different way to find these functions. So you might not know a count a SUMIF function, and you can search out functions using the insert function button. If you do this, you can search any type of function. So if you think about, I want to count something, you would initially search count. And when you do that, you can see a bunch of different functions that are available. The one that we're specifically using in this dashboard is the count a. And as you click through these functions, you get a small description of what they do. Once you hit OK, you have this function helper. So the first value it's looking for is which cells we want to count. So if you click this button, select your cells, then hit OK, we now have our results. Let's complete our counts. COUNTIF, enter, OK. The range of our function will be our half section, and the criteria is true. And let's verify this is working. You can see the number is changing. Our percent complete is equals D6 divided by C6. Enter. Again, we'll have to change this to a percentage. And now let's do our value. Sum. Okay. The values we want to sum are here. Okay. And let's change the values a bit. The last section is the value of our collection. SUMIF. Okay. The range criteria is true. And if we meet that criteria, we want to return these totals. You can see that's changing as we check our checkboxes. Before we make our dynamic charts, let's create a name for our dashboard. We can call this card set. And I'm going to highlight all of these columns here, right click, format cells, and I'm going to bring the horizontal alignment center across the selection. I'm going to change this color to match our header here. So let's find the color. It looks like it's blue accent 1. So let's highlight this, create the background blue accent 1, and then change our letter text to white. We'll increase the size. And then let's center our headers. I'm going to get rid of this column over here. So right click, delete. And then I will remove these 2 rows as well. So highlight, right click, delete. Lastly, I want to remove the grid lines on our dashboard here. You can do that by going to View and unchecking grid lines. I also want to center our summary a bit more. And then I'm going to create a bit more space for our dynamic graphs. We will do a middle alignment for our card set. Might increase the text here a bit more. Now let's create a total section in our summary. Let's call it total cards. And we will create a sum formula equals sum, parenthesis, highlight the totals we want to add together, enter. Now when you create a function, if you click on that cell with that function, in the bottom right corner will be a little square, and if you hover over that, it'll change your cursor. If you left click that square and drag it, that'll copy that function across the whole entire data set. Everything looks correct except for the %complete. So what we're going to do is create this same function and drag this down. And now if we double click on the function, we can verify that everything looks correct. When we create a dynamic chart, we need to select the criteria we want to include within that dynamic chart. We want to select the normal cards all the way through total cards. Now release your left mouse click, hold down the control button, and then left click the percentages. At this point, go up to Insert, Charts, 2D column, and the first chart selection, clustered column. At this point, we want to change the chart title. Now, when we click in here, you can manually type in a chart title, or we can hit equals, and whatever we select will be changed to the chart title. Now we want to add some data labels. And if you click on the data labels, we can actually increase the font and make them bold. At this point, we want to fit this in this spot up at the top. So we're going to decrease our chart size. Now, as we click on our checkboxes, our dynamic chart will also be affected. The last chart we need to create is a My Values chart, which indicates how much our collection is worth. We can do that by repeating the same thing we did for our %complete. The only difference is we don't want to highlight the %complete, but we want to highlight My Value. Insert, and another cluster chart. So what I like to do is double click on my chart, go to Format, and I can see how big this chart is. So I can copy these values to have my second chart match the exact size. Again, we're going to change the chart title to My Value, and then add a data label. I'm going to change this to currency, and then increase the font to 12 and bold. Now, as we check our checkboxes, our value will also increase. Thanks for sticking with me as we completed this dashboard. If you want to support the channel, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions on additional dashboards you want me to make in the future, just let me know. Drop them in the comments and I can start developing those as well. You can also go to my Etsy site and download this dashboard, or you can download it for free using the links below. I also included affiliate links below to show the software and equipment I use to film this video, if you're interested. Thanks.